Imagine a 43-day government shutdown costing the U.S. economy $11 billion permanently. Sounds devastating, right? But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is painting a surprisingly optimistic picture for 2026. Let's unpack his bold claims and see if they hold water. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent addresses journalists outside the White House in Washington, D.C., on November 5, 2025. Photo by Kevin Lamarck/Reuters. For licensing details, visit Reuters Connect, https://www.reutersonncom/item/Scott Bessent speaks at the White House in Washington/DGF non-JLDXRLCN NUETLDIWMGBMVCSXJDMKXRCDNGKRG%D%. Summary. Companies. Bessent attributes inflation to the services sector, not trade barriers. Treasury chief urges Republicans to abolish the filibuster if another funding halt occurs. Bessent emphasizes efforts by the administration to reduce consumer prices. Washington, November 23, Reuters. In a recent appearance on NBC's Meet the Press, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent revealed that the prolonged 43-day government shutdown, which you can read more about here, https://www.reuters.com/legal/government/us-house-vote-deal-and-long-history-2025-11-12, inflicted a lasting $11 billion dent on the U.S. economy. Yet, he expressed strong confidence in robust growth for the upcoming year, thanks to declining interest rates and favorable tax policies. Bessent pointed out that certain sectors of the economy, especially those heavily influenced by borrowing costs like the housing market, had indeed experienced downturns resembling a recession. However, he insisted that the overall national economy was not in jeopardy of widespread contraction. This distinction is important for beginners. While a recession typically means 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth across the board, localized slumps in sensitive areas don't always spell doom for the entire system. Think of it like a car with a flat tire. It might wobble, but it can still move forward with some adjustments. Sign up here. https://www.reuters.com/world/us/no recession risk us economy whole Bessent tells NBC/undefined location equals article paragraph and redirect URL equals %f world %fuss %f no recession risk us economy whole Bessent. But here's where it gets controversial. Bessent firmly placed the blame for rising prices on the services economy, such as healthcare, education, and dining out, rather than President Donald Trump's extensive tariffs. This echoes the administration's consistent stance, and he predicted that falling energy costs would broadly alleviate inflation pressures. "I'm extremely hopeful about 2026, Bessent stated. "We've laid the groundwork for a robust, inflation-free growth period." He highlighted encouraging October statistics, including cheaper fuel and increased home sales, and stressed the administration's dedication to curbing inflation. Intriguingly, Bessent noted that inflation rates were 0.5% higher in states governed by Democrats compared to Republican-led ones, which he linked to stricter regulations. For those new to this, regulations can mean rules that businesses must follow, potentially increasing costs. For example, environmental standards might raise prices for manufacturing or energy production, indirectly affecting everyday goods. And this is the part most people miss. The recent tariff reductions on essentials like bananas and coffee stemmed from long-negotiated trade agreements, Bessent explained. "Inflation is a multifaceted figure, and we're examining every angle," he said. "We're actively working to influence the factors within our control to bring costs down." President Trump recently approved a bill to conclude the longest U.S. government shutdown on record, providing funding through January 30 and potentially setting up another political clash between Democrats and Republicans in the coming year. Bessent advocated that Republicans should promptly eliminate the filibuster, a Senate rule allowing a minority to delay or block legislation by extending debate if Democrats trigger another shutdown, mirroring a call from Trump himself. However, he avoided committing to whether sufficient support exists for this change. Quick explanation for newcomers: the filibuster is like a parliamentary tactic where opponents talk endlessly to stall votes, often requiring a supermajority to end it. Ending it could speed up legislation but might lead to more polarized, one-sided decisions. Think of it as removing a safety brake that prevents hasty moves. Furthermore, Bessent outlined policy adjustments that would place limits on overtime tax rates, reduce taxes on gratuities and Social Security for certain workers, and allow deductions for auto loans. These measures, he argued, would increase real disposable income for everyday Americans, helping to counterbalance rising expenses. Taxpayers can anticipate significant federal refunds in the first quarter of 2026 due to adjusted tax structures, Bessent added. The Trump team is also gearing up for an announcement this week aimed at decreasing healthcare expenses, building on comments from a senior White House aide last week, though no specifics were provided. This could include initiatives like negotiating lower drug prices or expanding telehealth options, which are popular ways governments tackle healthcare costs. Additionally, Bessent forecasted that a series of trade pacts would stimulate economic activity, including the launch of new manufacturing facilities nationwide. Now, here's a controversial take that might spark debate. Could attributing higher inflation in Democratic states solely to regulations be oversimplifying complex economic factors like regional cost of living variations or supply chain issues? Do you agree with Bessent's optimism, or does the shutdown's $11 billion hit make you skeptical about 2026? What about ending the filibuster? Would it fix gridlock or just empower one side? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear differing perspectives. Reporting by Andrea Shalal and David Lauder, editing by Alexandra Hudson and Christina Fincher. Our standards, the Thomson Reuters Trust Principles, opens new tab, https://www.thomsonreuters.com/and/about-us/trust-principles.html.